Despite all those assurances that these were all just IT issues, cybersecurity is still on a lot of minds. For more on this, I'm joined by Scott Schober. He's the president and CEO of a company that designs and makes security products. I want to thank you for joining us, Scott. Scott joining us from New York. Let me start there. This is a big deal. 3 big glitches all in one day. New York Stock Exchange, United, and the Wall Street Journal, all unrelated. Or could this be something more serious?
You make a good point. Right away, I was very concerned because you've got 3 major industry sectors. You've got the financial, you've got media, you've got travel, all happening within a very short period of time. That's a huge concern, very unlikely that it's just a coincidence. So hopefully they'll provide further information as they get deeper into investigation. But the public really needs to have a better understanding what specifically happened here. There have been very little details to date, and even just looking at United alone, they're pointing toward a faulty router perhaps causing this supposed glitch that caused connectivity issues with the network. That's a concern. It's hard to believe. A lot of these systems do have redundancy, backup systems that should kick in. Even with the stock market, to be down almost 4 hours is unprecedented. Again, redundancy, backup, they've got great security there. You think more would actually happen and kick in besides such a long delay with very little information.
Well, they're saying with a certain amount of certainty that this was not a cyber attack, but how can they say that with certainty? I mean, the reason I ask that question is that's sort of the hallmark of an effective cyber attack, isn't it? That they can go undetected?
Yeah, that's a big problem. A lot of times, if you look at all the major breaches, when did they actually disclose that there was a breach? Sometimes it was not just days, weeks, but months after the breach where they gave full disclosure what actually happened. That's why it's a little bit early to jump to conclusions and say this was not a cyber hack. Hopefully it was not. Then you have this other added piece that's kind of interesting where you had late last night anonymous group there, which has got a pretty big following now. There's millions of followers there, claiming that there would be problems today on Wall Street, and look what happens now. Is that a coincidence? Possible, but boy, it sure does seem untimely when you look at that happening today versus what they said yesterday.
Well, when you start adding up all the coincidences, that's pretty hard.
A lot of coincidence.
Yeah, it's hard to accept. This is what an expert said about the Sony cyber attack. I just want to maybe dig a little bit deeper into this. He said this attack is unprecedented in nature. The malware was undetectable by industry standard antivirus software and was damaging and unique enough to cause the FBI to release a flash alert to warn other organizations of this critical threat. You're out there in the real world. How severe are these threats, and what should investors be doing? I mean, should they be nervous about this sort of thing, at least when you look at the New York Stock Exchange?
Yeah, great point. I wouldn't say be nervous. In other words, don't trade stocks, don't fly on airplanes, don't go on websites. I would be concerned. Follow the news closely, follow the headlines, make a determination, and balance that out so you could still lead a normal life. But at the same time, you got to have that concern there because this many coincidences to happen. And this is following hack after hack after hack, especially what happened recently with the government. Unbelievable number of hacks out there and a lot of information. So really, we all have to be guarded and be concerned.
Scott, one last question. I saw an interview that you were on, another panelist, and they were saying, it's a war out there, that a lot of these companies are under attack almost on a daily basis. I mean, can you just kind of give us a scene setter? How bad is the problem out there?
Oh, it's horrific. There's some reports that claim that some of the U.S. Credentials for all of us have been compromised somewhere in the neighborhood of 97%. That's huge. Companies are constantly being hacked. They don't realize they're being hacked. Look at the White House network even. There are reports that well over 1,000 attempts per day just toward the White House network. That's a tremendous amount of hacking going on. Most of it, fortunately, they can stop. But again, with time, they eventually find the vulnerability or the back door to get into these corporations, government agencies, and look what happens.
Scott Schober joining us from New York. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me on there.